Greetings everyone, this is Timothy Youngs, the Digital Apothecary, and today I want to show you something I'm actually really interested in. I love history, and I also love medical history and such, and whenever I get my hands on basically old items and old books, I kind of like to collect them. So I have like a weird eclectic collection on different stuff that's basically old medical stuff related. In this case though, one thing that was recently given to me is something called Materia Medica, Pharmacology and Therapeutics by Wright and Montag, 3rd edition. This thing is actually, from what I can tell, published in 1945. So, why I think this is interesting, especially if, let's suppose you're a pharmacist or a pharmacy student or even in the medical space, is a good insight into basically how did we get medications to patients in the past. So this thing is a little bit falling apart, unfortunately. And as you can see, like I'm missing like the whole front part there. I had to look this up online to see when it was even published. In the event, in terms of contents, it's kind of cool. So you can see here, they kind of go over what are different drugs and what's type, but it also gets into a lot of the old preparation stuff and talks about basically solid, liquids, and coloring and flavoring of medications. And I think this is kind of really cool in terms of like all the stuff that's gone on. What's also really cool is the fact that you also have a lot of like old calculations that are really kind of similar to what we still do today. So it kind of goes over that. But some of these areas are very interesting in terms of just, as I read through this thing about even the types of medications that they had back then versus now, really stand out to me. I mean, take for instance the fact that, 1945, this is actually before like pharma really takes out and puts up a lot of medications that come prepared in a bottle. So I mean, like, we're talking about an era where pharmacists were still preparing and making a lot of these drugs. So the whole concept of, say, that's, having ibuprofen just going into a store shelf and buying right off is kind of non-existent here. Taking that into consideration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little series, and you can watch this playlist basically to go over different areas in here that I thought was very fascinating, that stood out to me in terms of areas that I think is a good historical look and just how far we've come. So taking into consideration, I'm going to jump into it and just talk about little sections coming up here now.